Right, we're on. My name's Steve Johnson. Today we're talking about wedges, flying wedges, and this is not pitching wedge. This is from Homer Kelly's Golfing Machine book, and Homer talks about flying wedges, and what he refers to as a wedge is not what we class as a wedge, as in pitching wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge, gap wedge. He talks about a wedge as in a wedge of cake. So I think of this more as a sail on a boat. So if you visualise the sail on a boat, you know, the mast and then the sail. So this area here is filled in with sail or a wedge, and we're talking about flying wedges in the golf swing. Mental. So there's two flying wedges in the golf swing, and they both work at 90 degrees to each other. So the first flying wedge, or the first sail, is a position between, if we take a line straight down from the left shoulder, down my left arm, down the club shaft to the sweet spot, and then that line back up from the sweet spot to my shoulder. This area in here that's filled in is the first wedge, first flying wedge, or the first sail of the boat. So straight down my arm, straight down my shaft to the sweet spot, and then a line back up. Imagine the line back up, and this being all filled in with material. Okay, in here, that's the first flying wedge. Now that wedge has to stay in that line for the whole golf swing. So when the club comes back, I'll get a little bit closer here so you can see this. So flying wedge from here up to here, down. Now that'll move in and out like a fan. The fan you would fan yourself with, so it would move in and out, but you never want that flying wedge to go out of alignment. Okay, so that's in line, like a fan, the sail. That is out of line. That is also out of line. That's in line with my left arm, down, up. Flying wedge, all filled in here. Nice. Sorry, I'm having a look at the screen and the camera at the same time, so if I'm not looking at you, I'm trying to make sure this is all in line. Bear with me. So the club comes back, this flying wedge, this whole assembly comes back to here, all in line. The left wrist cocks, still in line. Club comes up, I'm going to move my body around, still in line. Up, still in line, up to the top of the swing. So this is all in line, although the radius is reduced, but it's all in line, as you can see. Then we come back down, it's in line. It's hard for me to see this, it's in line, down. Then this whole assembly turns down and round and through and up, and then we're still in line, and then in line on the way through as well. So that is always in line, that flying wedge, that sail is always there. Now, we need two sails to make this ship fly. We need two sails to make this work. Okay, so the next flying wedge, so we've got left arm flying wedge and right arm flying wedge. Right arm flying wedge is very similar. From a dress position, rather than come from the shoulder, it comes from the right elbow, down to the sweet spot, up the shaft, back up the forearm. So it's here. So your right arm flying wedge would be, take my dress position there, my right arm flying wedge is from the elbow, down to the club, down to the sweet spot, and back up again. And it's on the back of the golf club. Okay, so we're here, and it's on the aft of the club. So that's a straight line position there, and that stays in line all the way for the whole swing. Again, try and do this. So there, so it comes up, it's in a straight line, up, still in straight line, still in straight line, comes back down. Video analysis, we look for a position where the right forearm dissects, sorry, the club shaft dissects the right forearm, so therefore that flying wedge is in place. That's out of line, that's out of line. I can't see that on the camera, that's in line I think, so it's in line with the forearm. Comes down, 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 into impact. So we've got a left arm flying wedge, which is from sweet spot to left shoulder and down, filling in this position. Right arm flying wedge, from right elbow down to sweet spot, filling in this position. So I've got one here and one here. So they work at 90 degrees to each other. And they must stay at 90 degrees to each other all the way. Flying wedges, okay? Bits of paper, left arm flying wedge, let's put it there like that. Right arm flying wedge, 90 degrees. Okay, left arm, right arm, 90 degrees. They stay at 90 degrees for the whole swing. So the idea here is to keep these both at 90 degrees for the whole swing and through. Okay, you can see that fly, that's still in line, it's still a wedge. 90 degrees. So it stays at 90 degrees to each other for the whole swing. Okay, so if I take this tennis racket, okay, Wilson, advisory staffer of course. If I take this tennis racket and my price list and go 90 degrees, like I did before, okay, when I take this club, this right arm flying wedge back, okay, I come down and I can hit that 100 times out of 100 at 90 degrees to each other, straight in the right arm, flying wedges at 90 degrees to each other. I can do it every time. Okay, every time is going to be consistent. If this right arm flying wedge gets above the left arm flying wedge, or the club shaft as we showed before, not being in the line with the right forearm, being over the top there, then we're going to get this motion, steepening of the shaft, and a shearing motion. Again, if I'm too far under, manipulation is going to have to happen to try and get that square. I can do that every time it's on plane. 100 times out of 100 I'll get that 90 degrees. Now, let's keep it both together at 90 degrees. It's easy. Very easy. Why is this important? This is very, very important. If we get out of line, left arm flying wedge is out of line, then manipulation from the left wrist has to come into play at impact. Again, if we're out of line on the way down with the right arm flying wedge and underneath, then manipulation has to come into place to get it back on track. You'll see a lot of guys who come over the top or who slice, come down, and the right arm flying wedge has gone out of line. So shaft is now vertical instead of lying on the plane of the right forearm, down and through. That's it. Homer Kelly bangs on about that quite a lot. It's very effective if you can get this working for you. If you can really visualise it. So visualise your left arm wedge coming down, right arm wedge, 90 degrees to that every time. 90 degrees, and if you can keep that 90 degrees for the whole swing, impact will be much more efficient. The left wrist will be flat, the right arm bending into a straightening position will be applying force to the golf ball, and therefore strike will be better. Left arm, right arm flying wedge, maintain that through impact, still at 90 degrees to each other, still at 90 degrees to each other. There, this flying wedge is on the aft of the club. We're on top of the club there, continue through, continue through, continue through, still on the line, through. Guys, give it a try. Left arm flying wedges, right arm flying wedges. A flying wedge is not a bad shot, and a wedge that's getting thrown, that is the left arm and right arm flying wedge in the golf swing. Please leave comments in the box below. You can click this little circle up here to subscribe to my channel. And while you're leaving the comments, hit the subscribe button and see what happens.